Hello, MCU fans! Today we're going to take a look at what the TVA comic can tell us about the MCU's Scarlet Witch. So issue number 5 of the 5-issue limited series has now been released and it is wild. So I did do a video a little while ago on whether or not I think these comics are canon to the MCU. If you haven't checked that out, you might watch it because I'm going to build upon some of those theories. But for this video, it's important to keep in mind there will be spoilers for all 5 issues of the TVA comic. But as long as you're okay with that, then let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Don't forget, we have an April contest running all month long. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You could win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. And we have a membership option with lots of cool perks, so you might check it out in case you're interested. Okay, so the TVA comic limited series deals with the Research and Advancements Personnel Department of the TVA, and the main characters are Gwen Stacy, aka Ghost Spider, Remy LeBeau, Gambit, Jimmy Hudson, Poison, Ingrid, Peggy Carter, Captain Carter, Mobius, OB, and B-15. And then in issue number 2, we're finally reunited with Sylvie. So the gang's all here. All right, so you might remember in my last video, and of course you probably saw it all over the internet, that issue number 3 of the TVA series revealed that the Scarlet Witch was in a containment unit down in the bowels of the TVA, and it was Ghost Spider that found her. So that left us all wondering, is this the MCU's Scarlet Witch? I mean, certainly she has the blackened fingers, which we expect to see, but that made us wonder then, did she survive this scene? I mean, I've always thought with that red flash of light there that is the Scarlet Witch escaping, so I don't think she's dead. But what has Kevin Feige told us? So, way back in September of 2022 for Variety, he said, I don't know that we saw her under that rubble. I saw a tower coming down and a little red flash. I don't know what that means. Then he said, I'd work with Lizzie for another 100 years if we could. Anything's possible in the multiverse. We'll just have to see. So, yeah, he's kind of hinting at the same thing I was thinking, which is she's not dead. She didn't die under that rubble. Then more recently with the outlet Omelette in November of 2024, he said, after Agatha All Along succeeded on Disney+, there's been a lot of speculation about Wanda's return. We're just as excited to see when and how Scarlet Witch might come back. So I'm sure she's going to return. The question is it the one we saw in Multiverse of Madness, or is it a variant? So now on to the comic book. What did the artist tell us? Well, he actually did a post on Instagram saying it was the same Wanda from Multiverse of Madness, and then he had to back off and say, okay, it's a very similar variant. Please check out the latest issues of the book for further information. And then he apologized. So that sure indicated that this is a variant, but now we need to see why. What is going on? So we now move to issue number 4. So in issue number 4, Ghost Spider was releasing Wanda from that containment unit. She said, because this is Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. I've heard about her on my timeline, and her name stretches further than that. But this one looks like the one who is supposed to be dead, squished by a mountain after a showdown with Doctor Strange. So that's interesting. This is seeming to imply the one in Multiverse of Madness was indeed, well, squished. Anyway, she decides to open the containment unit. We get the hissing sound, and just before Wanda's able to fully come out, look who appears, our main villain, which turns out to be Nightmare. He says, I knew it would be you who would set her free for me. He was giving basically dreams to these different characters to try to get them to come down here, and sure enough, Ghost Spider was the one that did it. So I love the fact that they're finally giving us Nightmare. Please, please, give us Nightmare in the movies as well. He's such an awesome character. Anyway, now we move to the final issue, issue number 5, which gives us a Wanda versus Nightmare battle. So Ghost Spider is saying, I should run, right? Get help. Or I could try to find a way to put Wanda back. I mean, there's got to be an edit undo button on the pod. And Nightmare says something very interesting. Scarlet Witch. I thought I'd missed my chance after I heard about Mount Wundagore, but then I remembered that the TVA is almost as cunning as I am, and they found a timeline where the story went a little differently. The mountain went down, but you survived, and they put you on ice. Okay, so this is confirming what that artist said, which is this is a variant. But we are going to learn a little bit more about her nexus point and how her story changed from the sacred timeline. All right, so he says they locked you away where they have locked many powerful creatures over the eons. But now I have freed you. Together, we can rain hell upon the timelines. So let me just put a pause right here. When I'm trying to decide if this is canon to the MCU, I have to look at, what's going on, right? And we've never heard that there are beings trapped in the bowels of the TVA. I'm okay if they decide that's the case, but this is really new information. Anyway, just kind of keep that in mind. So we now get a little stare down between Wanda and Nightmare, and then Wanda responds with, "Stop talking," and blasts Nightmare across the room. I love that. Please give us Wanda again. I just want Wanda back. Please, I love her so much. Anyway, Nightmare, however, strikes back himself. He says, "You ungrateful witch. All of this was to free you." So, notice that he blasts Ghost Spider away. So we're going to follow her briefly, and then we're going to come back to this battle, because she runs up top to warn everybody else about what's going on. She says, "It's not just Nightmare. They have people down there, guys, on ice. People the whole world thinks are dead. Just kept like science experiments." To which Sylvie says, "Bloody hell, this place." Yeah, there's no way she would like what's going on, right? Anyway, then Ghost Spider gives the bad news. "I woke up Wanda Maximoff." So yeah, they're all worried about that. All right, so they head down there to check this out, and they see the battle is continuing. Nightmare says, "It doesn't have to be this way. I could see your dreams while you floated in the in-between." In other words, while she was in stasis. "Dreams of vengeance. That's why I came to set you free." But Wanda says, "You came to use me. You are no different than all the others who have done the same thing." And Nightmare responds, "Where will you go? You've left terror behind you like a stench. I have tasted it in your nightmares for years. My realm is the only place that can offer you refuge, witch." To which she says, "My name is Wanda," and blasts him across the room again. So they get into a massive battle, hand-to-hand combat, flying across the place, and then finally crash into the ground, and for the moment, they're separated. So now we see that Ingrid, who, believe me, up to this point just seemed like an administrative assistant, there was nothing going on with her, we find out her secret is revealed. She says, "This is my chance." She goes into the mist, and she comes out saying, "Hello, Father." Yup, she turns out to be Dream Queen, the daughter of Nightmare. Oh my word, I did not see that coming. And Nightmare says, "I should have known. I felt my realm's energy here long before I breached the walls. You have impressed me, daughter. Now we can combine our powers and..." And she says, "Shh. See, that's where you got it wrong, Dad. I didn't come here to enact your plan. I came here to enact mine." And she blasts him across the room. So yeah, it's not going well for Nightmare. Everybody he thinks might be working with him, no, they just knock him halfway across the room. Anyway, the way they finally defeat him, ironically, is with a sweet little kitty cat. And I'm sure you've already figured it out, right? That ain't no kitty cat, that's a flurkin. So yep, it pulls Nightmare into its bowels, and I don't know what Nightmare does when he's inside a flurkin, but he certainly does not escape. That is for sure. All right, so now, what will be Wanda's fate? So she says, "People have been calling me dangerous my whole life. When my brother was shot by a protester after Sokovia, I joined the Avengers to show I wasn't a villain, but I did that wrong." So let's pause again. So this is her nexus point. So her brother, obviously Pietro, Quicksilver, was shot by a protester after Sokovia, and then she joined the Avengers. Okay, so now we know where she diverged from the sacred timeline. Anyway, she goes on, "I grieved wrong. I even died wrong, which is why I'm here. But do you know what I saw when I was in the in-between in that pod? I watched Dr. Strange mind wipe an entire world so a teenager could get into college. I watched this place admit that timekeepers, the ones who supposedly decided that I should lose everything more than once, weren't real. And they weren't called monsters. They weren't locked away." So she says, "I will not be anyone's hero. I will not be anyone's villain. And I am not going back in that box. I am in control now. The Scarlet Witch is part of me. She always will be. Though I know that once the TVA makes a decision, it's pointless to argue." So Ghost Spider says, "I can't let you hurt people, Wanda. You can sort out your freedom with B-15 after, but you have to go back on ice in the meantime. You're too powerful." And no surprise, it's Sylvie who says, "No, wait." Ghost Spider says, "You're the one who told me not to fall for happy endings. You were right. Hope got us into this mess. I should have listened to you." And she says, "Happy endings or not, we're all writing our own stories now. If the TVA is different, really different, it has to get comfortable not knowing the answer to that. And we have to hope for the best even when it's hard. We are letting her go. So Ghost Spider says, well, how can we find you if we need your help? If we need you to assemble? And Wanda says, you don't. When I walk out that door, I'm not an Avenger. So yeah, that is the last we are likely going to see of this particular variant of Wanda. All right, so now tying up a few loose ends about that Wanda, B15 says, it all seems to have worked out with the exception of Wanda getting away. Notice she doesn't know that Sylvie actually helped Wanda escape. Anyway, she says, I'm glad you guys survived that though. Could have been a lot worse, and Casey is running a trace on her. Then Captain Carter says, my contacts have eyes on the timeline as well. If she shows up down there, we'll know. So presumably, she's referring to the exiles from the What If episodes. And then I love this. B15 says, Maggie, referring to the Flurkin, spit him up directly into a holding cell lined with the energy of good dreams. That has to be torture for Nightmare. Torture. Anyway, she says, you guys got lucky with that one. Not many creatures trip into a Flurkin. And Poison says, but at least we solved it. The madness is no more, and Nightmare is vanquished. To which they say, pie? Of course, right? You're at the TVA. You got to have pie. Count me in. Ingrid? Now, what's interesting is they don't know Ingrid is the Dream Queen because she did that during all the chaos down there and kept it a secret. Anyway, all ends well with a nice slice of pie. All right, so I got to ask the question again. Do you think this series is MCU canon? I'm going to be honest, I'm really struggling with it. I mean, the series is great. You should get these comics and check them out. The art is fantastic. The story is fantastic. But I just don't buy that they're canon. I just don't buy that the TVA has all these people stored down in the bowels. So I think this is just canon to the comics. But you know what? It doesn't matter what I think. I want to know what you think. I read and respond to everything, and I want to know, do you think these are canon? And if so, what do they tell us about the potential next appearance of the Scarlet Witch? So don't forget that contest. Be a subscriber, leave a comment, win a book or a steelbook. And there's the membership option in case you're interested in that. And I always love to mention the Discord. Here we are in the official tie-in comics section where Hunter does a fantastic job covering all of the official tie-ins. In fact, you can go in here and you can share your thoughts on whether or not you think this is officially connected to the MCU or not. And I also want to remind about the Doomsday one-year countdown. Every date that you see listed here at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll have a watch party all the way up to May 1st of 2026 when Avengers Doomsday arrives. So we have 2,100 members across the globe, conversations 24/7, and I'll leave a pinned comment so you can join. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, the ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.